Coming up tonight on Primetime Local News, Red Dress Day ceremonies took place today in Lloydminster. Plus, a play is going to be put on at the Legacy Centre. And we take a look into the past with this week's edition of Retrospect.
When you take out your garbage and stuff, you can take out the eggshells, the banana peels, and even grass clippings.
Prime Time Local News, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
Hello and welcome to Primetime Local News. I'm Lane Hoffert and thanks for joining me. Red Dress Day was held to spread awareness about the high number of missing and murdered Indigenous women in Canada. I have more on Lloydminster's ceremonies. Both Indigenous and non-Indigenous people in Lloydminster gathered for Red Dress Day, a commemoration of missing and murdered Indigenous women. The ceremonies included a pipe ceremony as well as a march and song and dance.
Today we are spreading awareness to the missing and murdered Indigenous women of Canada. It's the highest it's been for a while, and recently, this past week, there was a case from Onion Lake, and it's still an ongoing investigation.
Wind dancer Waskowich, a local First Nations dancer, says it's important for people from all walks of life to participate in Red Dress Day, as the safety of Indigenous women is an issue that affects everyone.
There are families that we do have here. Like sometimes I do see someone that I recognize, but it's tough, you know? And so we are and somewhat connected more than we thought. And when we help each other, it really does go a long way, you know? As a community, when they do stuff like this for us to help us spread awareness, it shows that, you know, in some way we are working towards understanding.
The song and dance portion of Red Dress Day is a way for Indigenous people to pray and heal together. Music is sacred for First Nations, and they use it to pray for a brighter future.
The jingles on the dance, when she dances, when you hear them, that's a healing sound. The drum, that when you hear the drum, that's a healing sound. And when we sing and dance together, we also pray for better days, and we pray for better health.
Red Dress Day brought people in Lloydminster together for a day of awareness and remembrance. The day is a step towards making the future of Indigenous women a safer one. Lane Hoffert, Primetime Local News. Lloydminster is getting more use out of the city's airport, bringing an aerial applicator to join the team. Adjustments are needed for the airport or operations and management bylaw, not currently accommodating the use of crop duster type aircrafts.
We've made some adjustments in the bylaw to accommodate that business model because that wasn't something that had been there. We had the flight school and mechanic service there that they offered repair, but we didn't have an aerial applicator working out of our airport. We wanted to ensure that our bylaw met all the conditions for him as well as for the city administration, and ensure that everything was, as they say, copacetic and met all the requirements legally.
Conversations are ongoing with potential commercial airlines to move into Lloydminster, with council ensuring residents they will be informed immediately.
It's an ongoing discussion. We're continuing to work through it. Administration's on it on a regular basis. Like I say, it's going to take a few months once we do land a carrier to get schedules to make their appropriate plans. But, you know, we are on the radar. We are on people's radar. It was discussed briefly last week in Medicine Hat with the government of Alberta, because it's certainly an issue in multiple communities.
The aerial applicator will move into Lloydminster Airport in June of this year. From May 8th to the 11th, the Legacy Centre is putting on Homecoming, a play about a Saskatchewan farming family dealing with the transition of power between a father and his son.
The premise is that a small-town Saskatchewan farmer, him and his wife are retiring to the small town that they live next to. It's sped up. The retirement has been sped up because of a broken leg, and so the son and daughter-in-law are moving in to take over the family farm. But just like everyone that takes over the family farm, it doesn't go as smoothly as everyone expects it to. So there's lots of drama that happens during the whole takeover or the transition from one generation to the next.
According to director Matt Newman, he chose this play because it not only was written by a Saskatchewan playwright, but it will also hit home to a lot of people.
It's very dear to everyone in this community, in particular, the farming community, any farming community. I grew up on a farm. I was the oldest. I was kind of expected to take over the family farm, so it hits a soft spot there as well. And it's a funny, well-written play. I think everyone's going to enjoy it. There's just lots of fun stuff that happens.
The dinner theatre is put on by the Lloydminster Senior Citizen Society and the Dinner Theatre Committee as a way to raise money for the Legacy Centre.
You can get your ticket to the Legacy Centre. It's actually a fundraiser, one of the two major fundraisers for the Legacy Centre. This and the golf tournament during the summer. So if you're looking for tickets, just contact the Legacy Centre.
Summer is right around the corner, and so far this spring has been beautiful. Abby St. John spoke with global Saskatoon meteorologist Peter Quinlan to find out what kind of summer we can expect.
We're about a little over a month before the first day of summer, and we are experiencing some really beautiful weather, nice warm temperatures, especially over this past weekend. And I'm very happy to be joined by global Saskatoon meteorologist Peter Quinlan. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Abby.
Of course, it's always great talking to you about what we can expect from the conditions. And now that we're fully into spring and the nice weather, what can we expect? We've had a couple of very sunny, very beautiful days out, but it has been quite windy. We haven't had a ton of rain either. So what can we expect from these couple of months heading into the summer?
So it looks like we've really kicked off May on a pretty warm note, and we'll probably see some more hot days later this week and then potentially again next week. The kind of medium range models are hinting at a bit of a cool down after that, a little bit maybe below the average high in Lloydminster. But the overall trend in summer, meteorological summer, is June, July, and August, is expected to be a hotter than normal summer and potentially a drier than normal summer as well, although precipitation is a little bit harder to predict in a long range scale.
Yes, I was going to ask about that. I think that's the most important thing on people's minds is whether we're going to experience that rain. Fire season, unfortunately, has already begun. We have seen wildfires across, especially in Alberta with Grand Prairie. So what are we looking to? I know you just said that it's hard to predict long-term precipitation forecasts, but in the kind of short term, what are we expecting? Will we see some rain? I know there was a little bit over the weekend, but not a lot.
We don't have any major precipitation expected, at least in the near term. So the next 7 or so days in Lloydminster, looks like as we get toward the middle of the month, we could see a little bit. But this is the time of year when farmers and for the fire danger, we want to get some substantial moisture in the soil. We're not seeing any in the forecast. And unfortunately, this could be a trend we see through the end of spring and into summer. Typically, we see what we call upper low pressure system season in June, where we get these systems that have a lot of moisture that move in. So hopefully we get those substantial June rains. We're definitely going to need that as we head into the summer growing and fire season. So we will be watching that. At this point, it does look like it will be drier than normal. So it would be something, a good time to be preparing for those drier than normal conditions and be preparing for the possibility of a wildfire that can break out at a moment's notice, as we've been seeing across parts of Alberta and Saskatchewan already.
Yes, absolutely. It's always great to be prepared just in case an event like a wildfire does break out, because it, like you said, it happens incredibly fast. So it is great to be prepared. And now finally, I think the biggest thing in Lloyd is the wind. It is always very, very windy here. We're used to the wind, but it's also been windy out in Edmonton and other areas of the provinces. So what are we expected to see in terms of the wind? Is this going to be a windier season this year?
Spring is usually the windiest season of the year, along with fall, and so it will likely be quite windy later this week. We're talking Wednesday, Thursday. It'll be these warm southerly winds Wednesday, then shifting to a cooler northwest wind on Thursday, gusts of 50 to 60 kilometers per hour. So the short answer is yes, it will be quite windy, and then as we kind of settle into summer, those winds diminish a little bit as we get into an overall warmer pattern, but it's just because we're transitioning between the cooler air and the warmer air that we often see windier conditions in the spring.
Wonderful. Well, it was great as always talking to you and getting the know into what we can expect for the rest of spring and into summer once we head into June. So thank you so much for joining me once again, and I'm sure we'll talk soon about the summer months.
Sounds good. Yes, thanks for having me, Abby.
It's time now for Retrospect. Here's Nick Hott.
This week on Retrospect, we travel back to the year 1995 for a look into some young experts talking about composting.
You can mix humus with your garden or with your flower pots, anywhere you want a nice, good soil for growing things, because humus is perfect for that.
If you don't already know, your kids can probably tell you that humus is the product that forms in your composter.
Actually, I think they probably know more about composting than most of us adults do.
When you take out your garbage and stuff, you can take out the eggshells and the banana peels and even grass clippings.
And what do they do? What do you do with them?
Well, you put them into the composter, and it heats up and it rots, and it deteriorates and just makes soil and turns it into humus, and it provides some good soil.
These experts will tell you that there are only 5 essential ingredients needed to make your composter work. Those are heat, water, air, and the microorganisms that come to live in your compost to break it down. If you are interested in getting a composter like this one for your household, the Recycling Committee will be selling them Saturday, May 6th at the Lloydminster Exhibition Grounds. A composter will cost you $20. Part of the initial price tag has already been picked up by the city. Leanne Niblock, NewsHour.
Next, we jump forward to the year 1998 for a look into the Heart and Stroke Foundation and how they put the fun in fundraising.
Okay, let's go.
And with that, they were off. 30 pedal-pumping riders and 1 colossal bike, all to raise money for the Heart and Stroke Foundation. This is the 7th year for the Heartbeat Tour, and every year just keeps getting better and better.
This year, for the first time ever, the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Saskatchewan in a fiscal year raised over $3 million, and so that was very exciting for us.
For the 3rd year in a row, families from 55th Avenue here in the border city hopped on the giant bicycle to help out the cause. They, like many of the 4,000 others, return to the tour each year, collecting pledges and funding life-saving research in the province, and of course, to have a good time.
I mean, I think it's fun, but at the same time, we have people who come back year after year, and I think the novelty probably is worn off a little bit for them, but what's important to them is the cause, raising money for the Heart and Stroke Foundation.
It's a lot of fun. It's a great cause, and we like to raise money for the Heart and Stroke Fund, and we have a block barbecue afterwards. Kids are waiting there. We soaked us down as we rode by, and we just enjoy it.
1, 2, 3, yay!
There's never a dull moment for riders. Each leg of the 3 to 4 kilometer course is filled with pranks and amusing antics.
Our driver's job is to keep them entertained, so they're not just concentrating on pedaling. He gets them to do the wave, he gets them to do fire drills, he gets them to do turn signals, and he just tells jokes and keeps them entertained on the bike.
Its unique nature and appeal are the driving force behind a campaign that is vitally important. While there may be a lot of smiles and laughter on this tour, what should not be overshadowed is the event behind the cause. Shannon Fagan, NewsHour.
Lastly, we jump forward to the year 1999 for a look into the opening of a skate park.
For skateboarders and rollerbladers, finding a place to call their own has been a constant battle.
Basically, we got kicked off of a lot of spots, and people in general just didn't take a liking to us.
Now they have a place, an enclosed area at the north end of the Leisure Centre parking lot. It opened last Friday, and since then has attracted a number of boarders and bladers looking to catch some air off the ramps.
It's going to be, some trial and error, some growing pains, but, we're a weekend into it, and I haven't heard of any major incidents in terms of accidents or anything like that. I'm sure there's been some bumps and scrapes, and you look at the size of the ramps, and some of these things are 7 feet tall. There's bound to be that, but yeah, overall we're pleased so far.
The city has teamed with local schools to make sure the park does not become a distraction to the education of the boarders and bladers. Right now it opens after the final bell of the day rings at 3:30, but once summer holidays roll around, the hours will lengthen from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. All boarders and bladers are encouraged to don protective equipment like knee and elbow pads, but when it comes to helmets, there is no encouragement. It's a must.
I think it's good. I think people should wear their helmets.
Parks like the one here in Lloydminster are becoming increasingly popular. Some can cost into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Dudding estimates the Border City Park falls within the 20s, but he says they still intend on protecting their investment and sustaining the park's long-term future.
Put on the rules that if graffiti shows up in the ramps, we'll take the ramps out, and we're looking for cooperation from the boarders themselves, and if it's used responsibly, to stay here. If it's used irresponsibly, well, unfortunately we'll have to shut it down. So we're hoping we don't get too many bad apples at record for everybody else.
Shannon Fagan, NewsHour.
And that's all for this week of Retrospect.
Retrospect is brought to you by Webb's Machinery. Find New Holland products at Webb's Machinery, your dealer in Vermilion, Vegreville, Lamont, Wainwright, St. Paul, and Consulate.
We'll be back with more news after a look at your closing market.
Today's oil prices are brought to you by First General Services.
That's all the time we have today for Primetime Local News. I'm Lane Hoffert, and thanks for joining me.